Back with you on this Monday. Thanks for hanging. Hope you all had a great weekend. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. D Gunn, B Brooks, R Ellis. All right, guys. So let's start with the Patricia rumor because everybody seems to be going crazy here on this one. There was a report out there that the Eagles may have interest in bringing him in as a defensive coach. I know some folks are asking, isn't he an offensive coach? Well, he was an offensive coach this past year. Bill Belichick went with sort of a dual system of Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, guys who were with New England previously, left for head coaching jobs, and then came back. But before Patricia took the head coaching gig in Detroit, he was the defensive coordinator. But early in his career, I think he was a tight ends coach. So that's not uncommon. And Barrett, you know this. Guys can bounce to each side of the ball. That's not, shocking. I would say it was unorthodox, to say the least, what Belichick did last year. You're muted, B. What he did with Patricia and Judge, and clearly didn't work for them offensively, and I think really hurt Mac Jones' development. So let's start with that piece of it, and then I'll get into the Eagles ties, where I think this could be not a great move. But go ahead.
I just, it happens all the time, especially, coaches that they know both sides of the game. Like a lot of people really laughed at Juan Castillo's hiring as defensive coordinator. I truly believe if he would have been hired as the linebacker coach to start off, he'd have been a phenomenal defensive coach. He played linebacker in college. He coached like a defensive mentality. Usually, I'm not saying that offensive guys, they coach passively, but Juan coached so aggressive. He coached like he was a linebacker. He coached like he was a defensive guy, that's why all his offensive lines are pretty good that, he has, because he has a mentality like, we're going to get you before you get us.
Right. So
it happens all the time, all the time, So, I mean, for coaches to flip back and forth like that, it's not unheard of at all. You see coaches, look at Harbaugh. Harbaugh started out special teams coach, but the defensive backs coach, it really depends on, what they're doing.
A great example, people forget this, the great Jim Johnson was a college quarterback at Missouri. I mean, who would have thought, right? But it's just, it is what it is. But I actually didn't like what they did last year. And that said, I don't like
it. It was horrible, yeah.
And if he was going to come here, it would be in a defensive capacity. Now, these are just rumors out there, but you wonder, with the Eagles losing a linebackers coach, a secondary coach, Sean Desai is obviously the defensive coordinator. We know that, but it is a possibility. Now, the sticky part of this thing is he and Slay did not get along when Slay was in Detroit and Patricia was the head coach. In fact, Slay blasted him out the door. So that doesn't make sense unless Slay's headed out the door.
Well, two things. Number one, you guys remember I said there's a possibility they could use Slay as trade bait to get some picks back, and people lost their minds on social media that I even put that out there. Well, that's still on the table. There's a possibility. Number two, there's also truth to the rumor that they have some interest in Patricia as a defensive coach. Doesn't mean they're going to hire him, obviously, because you have a meeting of the minds. Who knows? Maybe Patricia doesn't see this as a fit that he wants to come into right now, or maybe he's asking for more money than the Eagles want to pay a position coach. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it. But you know what? As an organization, you talk to any and everybody to see where they are, their mindset is. He wasn't a bad defensive coach. He was not a head coach. He obviously was not an offensive-minded coach, after what happened with Mac Jones. But he does have some defensive pedigree. He was a good player as a defensive player when he played in the NFL. He was a good defensive player. Sometimes that doesn't translate to a good coach. But those two things are still on the table.
Yeah, look, and in fairness to Patricia, he did win a Super Bowl as a defensive coordinator.
Yes, he did.
For what it's worth. Now, it was not he didn't have a good Super Bowl against the Eagles. And then he left to be Detroit's head coach. That didn't work out for him. But we know that just because it doesn't work out for you as a head coach doesn't mean you're not a good coordinator. Now, I appreciate you, Marshall. We'll see how it works out, but I don't know. I mean, this is just rumors floating around. I think maybe connecting dots with needing coaches on that side of the ball, because there's a lot of turnover here, guys. There's a lot of turnover. You're losing your D coordinator, your linebacker coach, your secondary coach, and potentially a lot of free agents. I mean, you could lose Hargrave, Graham, Edwards, White, Cox, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Sue, Joseph, just to name a few. That's not even everybody.
See, now I wonder also how this will affect the negotiations between the Eagles and CJ. Now he's looking at a new defensive coordinator. Now his guy, Denard Wilson, is gone as well.
Wow.
How will this affect his negotiations? Losing a lot of players after a Super Bowl appearance is not out of the norm. Losing the high volume of coaches this team is losing is extremely rare. You don't just see you don't see this many coaches out the door at the same time, whether you win or lose that Super Bowl. And, there's something to be said for. Now, somehow, some way, Andy Reid was always able to plug and play when it came to his coaches moving on to a better position or a head coaching position.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept that train moving for most of the 14 years he was here. But this is unusual because this is a combination that could really put your overall defense in a severe restraint in terms of being a very effective I would say even a top 12 defense. If you lose all those players that Rob just mentioned, coupled with all these coaches that walked out the door. Now, going back to what you said about Denard, I'm not surprised.
Let's dig into this because this is a biggie. This is a biggie here.
I am not surprised one bit that he's no longer with the organization. Now, and again, this is just me speaking my perspective, not in any inside information. If he thought that he had a legitimate shot to be the DC, and then all of a sudden at the last minute the rug is pulled from under him, I'm ticked off.
I'm pissed.
Because basically I feel like you lied to me. And again, I'm not saying the Eagles lied to him. I'm not saying the Eagles promised him anything. But if they did promise him that, hey man, you're the front runner for this job. And I'm thinking the job's mine.
Yeah.
Hey, they moved up. They moved up Brian Johnson. So I should be moved up too, right? Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, they bringing somebody out of the cold. I'm ticked off. So I'm not surprised. And I told you guys, don't be surprised if he leaves because you don't know how you're going to jive with this dude. We don't know the relationship this side even has. It's a small fraternity. We don't know if there's some tension between those two.
Here's where it's interesting, Barrett, because there's a conflict here. The Eagles put a statement out saying, hey, we've decided to mutually just kind of move on. We're going to part ways. Thanks, Denard, for all your assistance the last couple of years. Okay. You kind of get it for all the reasons Derek just laid out, whatever. And it may be awkward for him to work under a new defensive coordinator when he didn't get the gig. Understood. Marcus Hayes of the Philadelphia Inquirer puts a story out saying basically this wasn't a mutually parting of the ways. This was Sirianni sat down with Denard over the weekend and something happened to the point where Sirianni basically fired him and said, you're out. This isn't your option. You're out. That's according to Marcus Hayes, what he had to say. Marcus also goes on to say in the story that Denard was willing to stay here and work under Desai and was not going to be, a distraction or, whatever. But apparently something went down. I don't know if it got heated. I don't know if he wasn't convincing enough that, hey, I'm not going to be that I'm going to be strong in my opinions on things. And maybe that didn't sit well. I don't know. I have no idea. But according to Marcus, this was a firing, not hey, we're just going to all see other people now.
That's tough. I mean, because conceptually, Denard wasn't really under that tutelage that the defense was run over with Gannon anyways. He was under a much more aggressive mindset with Todd Bowles and those guys, and understanding, that you got to play more aggressive in play calling and play style. So, I mean, it was conflicting. I don't know if he would have necessarily wanted to go into a 3-4 system. He might have wanted to go to a 4-down system. He might have thought that would have been more productive from a pressure standpoint. So there's a lot of different ways in which you can think about, a guy's fit or his non-committal to doing whatever it takes to be under somebody else's reign. You know what I mean? It's tough. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like to read prompter. I like to freestyle. Some people like to read prompter because they can't freestyle. It doesn't change, the fact that we can still do the same show, but it's different because I approach it differently than most people approach it. And, you know, and that's kind of hard to deal with when you have two different styles, you know, and how you're doing things.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious with the organization, it doesn't want to give up big plays, and they don't want to have to blitz a ton. Now, I don't know if Denard Wilson had a different, you know, idea, but here's the thing. You would think that would have kept him maybe from being the DC, but he's not making that call if he just stays on as the defensive backs coach. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? I don't know what happened, man. Something.
Me neither, man. And because he's not one of those guys that just, you know what I'm saying, throw stuff against the wall and let it stick. Evidently, he knows something, or somebody told him something. It may not be the right thing, but somebody's told him something, or he's seen something that made this relationship sizzle in just one weekend.
Yep. Yeah, no question. So again, we'll see if anything more develops on that. We'll pass it along if we get any more.
Well, I just sent out a text to Marcus Hayes, so I'm gonna see if I can get him to jump on with us to shed some more light on this story. Because, you know, Marcus, he's not one to pull punches. So
no, he's not at all. Not at all.
So I'm just waiting to hear back from him, see if we can slip him on. If not today, because I know it's crazy. If not today, he might be at the combine for all we know. If not today, maybe tomorrow.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Speaking of combine, you see what happened to my little guy, man. My running back, bro.
who?
He measured 5'5".
What Deuce
Vaughn.
Deuce Vaughn, the running back from Kansas State. Yeah.
5'5", 170 something.
That is small. Whoa.
Hey, wait a minute. Don't knock the little guy in the NFL.
No, I never knocked him, but he's the shortest player to ever come.
Because Dallas has one of the most dangerous returners in the NFL, and that little dude is like 5'8", 160 pounds, soaking wet, but can run like a gazelle. There's a place for the little man in the NFL.
Absolutely.
Darren Sproles. Yeah. Sproles is what, 5'6"?
No, Sproles is 5'8". Wasn't he 5'7"?
Maybe in his cleats he was 5'8".
Yeah, I think he was like more like 5'6". Yeah. Yeah.
So
come on, man.
Well, interesting. Yeah, I know. Well, we're going to get into the combine and some of the things that went down to the combine in a little bit. But let me ask you guys. I mean, if you consider the coaching turnover and the possibility of losing Bradbury, Gardner Johnson, Hargrave, Cox, Edwards, White, Epps, to name a few, how big a concern is the defense, man? You're not signing all these guys back.
It's a huge concern. It's huge.
I mean, you could be losing a combined 35 sacks. If you look at Hargrave and Brandon Graham, that's 22 there. Fletcher Cox is 7. Edwards is 2. White's a sack and a half. CJ's 1. Sue's 1. Joseph's a half. And then you talk about 6 picks from CJ. That's a lot of losses.
Well, one thing I am going to say is they're not going to feel the effect of signing their quarterback. Even though they're going to sign their quarterback this year, they won't feel the effects of signing their quarterback this year. His value won't hit the cap until 24. So they'll be able to sign people back. It's just long-term how they're going to sign them. When you look at how the salary cap is made, that's why you see, that's why he's not, that's how he's not really too, bent out of shape about it, because he'll be playing under his rookie salary. Now they'll have to pay for the bonus, but the bonus will be spread out over the life of the contract. So there'll be money. There'll be a lot more money than we're saying right now that they could maneuver, on the cap this year. They'll be able to do some things. You know what I mean? They'll be able to sign some guys.
I said it before, and it may not happen because Howie will shock us in some way, some form. But I think we could be looking at something similar to what Kansas City just went through.
Yeah.
They had 24 new players on that roster this year, and 11 of them were rookies, and they won the Super Bowl. There's a chance we could be looking at a complete makeover on the defense. We already are in the coaching staff on the defense and in personnel. But because that offense is still intact, they could still do some serious damage. Now, the road to get to the Super Bowl next season is much stiffer than it was in 2022. but they have the offensive firepower to do it, to cover up a lot of deficiencies. Until if you bring an abundance of new players, as well as the coaching staff getting used to the players getting used to the coach, there's a growing period. It could be 4 to 5 games. You don't make up that time in OTAs, mini camps, and training camps, especially when frontline players don't play in preseason games anymore. So there's a growing period for the first month of the season that this team could have to go through. But you have the offensive firepower to overcome those hidden deficiencies until their defense. Barrett agreeing with me twice in one day. You're just doing that because it's my anniversary today, aren't you?
No, I forgot all about that. That was water under the bridge. I forgot all about that. But you're making a lot of sense. That's why we were talking about.
What? Say that again. What? What? What'd you say?
Can I just please talk about what we're talking about?
No, I want to soak this in. This doesn't happen often. Keep it coming. Keep it coming, B. Brooks.
That's why people looked at me strange when they're saying, well, we got to go defense in the draft. Well, I mean, this team might be trying to go ahead and build up that offense, just make that offense unstoppable, a la what the Kansas City Chiefs did, make their offense, one that, this is going to outscore people and just patchwork the defense to get them by. You can win Super Bowls like that. Kansas City just did it. So it makes sense to me, like we were talking about Bijan Robinson. Why, picking up a running back in the first round with the talent this kid has, ran a 4.4 40, his ability to play anywhere in the slot, in the wing, traditional running back, you can put him anywhere. He can catch, run in between the tackles. Him running the read option with Jalen Hurts, that's not a bad combination to invest.
To be honest, I don't see the Eagles spending that kind of draft capital that high on a running back. To be honest,
I know, but I'm just.
I don't either.
No, and I don't disagree with you, but
yeah,
it's not beyond the realm of possibility, because they might be thinking, look, if we make our offense unstoppable, then we don't have to worry about the defense as much.
Yeah, and you know what it really comes down to? Do you have the faith in your quarterback to be able to carry you the way that Mahomes carried the Chiefs? And I think they do. Obviously, if they're going to be paying the guy $50 million, whatever it ends up being, they have that faith in him. But that's really what it comes down to. If you don't have that faith, then you're going to load up on defense in the first, at least with the first 3 picks. You would think, somewhere around there. But
makes sense.
I get where you're coming from with the Barrett. The bigger question for me is, we know it's been forever since they took a running back in the first round. They just don't do it. But they haven't picked a corner in the first round since 2002, Lito Shepherd. I mean, you talk about more than 20 years at that position where they used a first rounder on him. I think this could be the year that snaps that streak. I think that's possible.
That's definitely possible. And then this draft is working out perfectly for the needs that we have. Edge rushers, defensive linemen, and corners.
And Barrett, add to that a quarterback-hungry organizations that are going to be taking quarterbacks up before you pick, which will lead even more.
4 are probably going to top 5, top 6 picks.
Well, Richardson just cemented himself.
Yes.
And you add him to the Levis kid and then Bryce Young and Stroud. You look at at least 4 right there. They probably go ahead of the Eagles.
Yep.
Which is great for the Eagles. It's great.
So apparently there was some tension between Wilson and Sirianni. Now I'm trying to get more details, but not giving up too much. Just I asked the question: was there tension between the two? And the answer was yes, there was some. Now who knows to what degree, but there was some. Which leads me back to what I said before. I believe Wilson felt he was the next candidate, especially since Brian Johnson got the OC job, or Wilson felt in dialogue with decision makers that he felt coming away that, okay, I'm the front runner, the job is mine, and all of a sudden the rug was pulled under him.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, look, it's not there had to be some hurt feelings there. And I would assume to some degree there was a lack of faith from the Eagles standpoint that he was going to be able to just soldier on here. But again, the only people who know are the people that were in that meeting ultimately, exactly how this played. But
man,
my biggest concern is a decent amount of new coaches and a lot of personnel turnover over there. And you guys are right. Like, this could turn into just outshoot teams and all that, but at some point you're going to have to get stopped somewhere. And how much of a hit is your defense going to take?
Well, that's what Kansas City's defense was. They weren't a juggernaut. They were an opportunistic defense. They made, when you look back at this season, if you had a chance to look at every game they won this season, it's not like the defense shut anybody down, but they got one or two key turnovers, whether it was a strip sack, an interception that gave the ball back into that lethal offense's hands. And once that offense gets ahead of you, it's hard for any team, and I'm talking Buffalo, Cincinnati, Eagles, it's hard for any team to come back on that team when that happens.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that's how their whole season was played out. You know, you look at the Jacksonville game, key stops. You look at the Cincinnati playoff game, key turnover. One big play here or there made the difference in those games. You know?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I like the way the offense stays pretty much status quo. You know what I'm saying? We'll find somebody to take care of, you know, right guard. That'll be easy.
Oh, I agree. I agree with
We
you.
got Stoutland University.
Yep.
I'm not worried about that. Am I worried about special teams? Yes, I'm still worried about special teams.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not, you know, kicking, you know, so we're good with
everything
PAT,
else.
you know what I'm saying, field goals. Punting, we got to do something about the punting. We got to do something about our coverage and return. But I still think that this defense will have enough with the size conceptual mentality of running a 3-4. We have the people in place to run that 3-4, even with people gone. Now, will it be to the quality that we had just last year? No, it won't even be close. Well, not even close, because I mean, you got Bradbury, you know, an all-star. You know, Bradbury's that good.
Mm-hmm.
You won't have him. If we don't have CJGJ, that's going to be a powerful hit. Avonte Maddox, do you keep him in? If you can't sign CJGJ back, do you make Avonte Maddox CJGJ and move in those young corners we got in? McPherson, Josh Jobe. You know, I mean, that's a distinct possibility also.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this defense, they will be okay, but can you be okay if you want to go and compete for
can you be okay in a passing league? Can you be okay if you're not getting the sacks that you were getting last year?
Exactly.
And where your corners get exposed that much more if you're not getting pressure? Can you be okay? I don't know. I mean, that's a good question.
Okay with Josiah Scott still being in the slot?
Yeah. Look, and it's not like you're bereft of talent. You still have Hassan Reddick coming back, who's a sack machine. Sweat was in double digits. I like Milton Williams a lot. So you still have talent coming back. And Jordan Davis, you know, I mean, this is where we're going to find out with him. And you're probably going to have Slay, but we don't know for sure. But you're probably going to have Slay. I mean, you're going to have some players still there.
Yeah, you look at Milton Williams. In the short time he's been in the NFL, he has played well in spurts. Can he play that way if his role is expanded?
Yep.
Can Jordan Davis perform if his role is expanded? When you have that kind of depth across the board, you look a whole lot better in the third quarter, early to mid fourth quarters than you do if you got to play 70, 75% of the snaps like some defensive players do across the league, because they don't have that kind of depth the Eagles just had. That luxury is now gone for Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, so on and so forth. So we're going to find out, are they frontline players? And when I say frontline players, any player to me that plays over 55, 60% of the snaps is a frontline player, you know, more so than a role player.
But just think about this, though. What if Reed Blankenship starts one safety?
Yep.
Then you got Avonte Maddox at the other safety.
Possibility. Who's your slot?
You got guys that got to step up. So that's where I was saying Josiah Scott, Josh Jobe, Zach McPherson. They got to step up. You
may have to go with them out of necessity if that was the case, but I don't trust either one of them.
And draft. This is where you make your name. We were saying the same thing about Epps. We were saying the same thing about Marcus Epps this time last year. And I was head on about Marcus Epps being a guy to come in and play.
Well, that's why too. This is not like last year. These guys can't sit. The guys you're drafting this year have to come in and play.
Baron Vaughn.
What's that?
What happened?
Look at Baron Vaughn. Was it?
Where?
Josiah Scott.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm with Barron in that I'm not really feeling that with Josiah Scott.
I'm not saying it either.
Yeah.
No, I saw what I need to see of him. I saw it, and I didn't need to see anything else.
Yeah.
But I didn't see anything from Zach McPherson to say, all right, he can't do it. The few times he had an opportunity to get in there at the wide corner,
yeah,
I thought he serviced himself pretty well.
Yeah.
I thought he played pretty well. Toward the end, Kayvon Wallace showed me a little something. Like when they get in their big nickel formations. I like how he played when given that opportunity. Can I trust these guys every down? I don't know, because I haven't seen any of Josh Jobe. I've seen none of him yet. He's from Alabama. I watched him in Alabama. Very good at Alabama, but he didn't get drafted. So why? You know what I'm saying? There's some guys that got to step up. Like I don't have a problem with Nakobe Dean stepping up. I know he's going to step up. Another guy, is Davis. I know he's going to step up. Milton Williams is going to step up. I know they're going to play at a high level. But there's still some guys that Kayvon Johnson. Can he play that outside linebacker opposite of Hassan Reddick?
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Johnson. I've seen him play, and he's played pretty well when he was given the opportunity to play. He played a lot, actually. You know what I'm saying? He played a lot and was serviceable while he was out there.
No question. Yeah, no question about it. Yeah, there's guys that we just have to find out when given the opportunity, and that's Jordan Davis and that's Nakobe Dean. And then there's others that aren't on the team yet who they're going to draft. They're going to have to come right into play.
Yep.
Plain and simple. Not like last year with the luxury of all these veterans who are going to be sitting in front of them. Now you're going to be shown out or thrown out there a little bit. So, all right, we'll see. All right, we're going to come back. We'll continue with the Eagles talk. We'll mix in a little Phillies and Flyers stuff as well before we get to Keith Pompey at 1:30. We get to the NFL segment. There's tons of NFL stuff. Like there's some big names who could be cut or already have been cut. Like big names. For sure, including Derrick Henry potentially, or being shopped around in a trade. So there's a lot of bills that are coming due here with organizations that played around a little bit with the cap, and now they're paying the price. So we'll see.
Oh my goodness, Darman Mack. It's okay, y'all. We still have Derek Barnett.
Yeah, somehow. Yeah,
9 lives, man. He's got 9 lives.
Yeah, he does. All right, we'll come back. We'll hit all that when we return. That's Derek. That's Barrett. I'm Rob. We're Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let's talk about Pro Action Restoration, because Pro Action Restoration is your lifeline. Okay, if you have a business, you have a property, you have a home, and you've experienced the inconvenience of water, fire, smoke, mold damage, it can be incredibly trying and scary, okay? But the beauty is they're on call 24 hours, 7 days a week. You can reach out to them on a Saturday, at night, on a holiday, whatever the case may be. I've gone through it personally on a Saturday, and they got over to my parents' house, and they cleaned up just a mess in their basement. They are licensed, bonded, fully insured, and they've been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades. Pro Action Restoration will work in conjunction also with your insurance company. So it could be water, it could be fire, it could be smoke, it could be mold remediation, but it could be something else that you're not really sure about. Give them a call, find out, get a consultation. 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com. That's proactionrestoration.com.
Go to get your